And let's get started here. Good morning, everybody. Brian Armentrout with the Food Leadership Group. And I'm bringing to you a remote food safety chat. And I'm really excited about our talk today. I am in beautiful Knoxville, Tennessee, down here doing some work, and more to come on that later. We'll leave that for a later time. But when I was in the area, I had to make sure and stop by and visit my friend Paddy McNamara with Allera. So he's with Allera Technologies, and he is the founder and CEO here at this company. How you doing today, Paddy?
Doing great. Glad you're on the move and coming up to Tennessee.
Oh, absolutely. So we're here in July, and it's a little warmer, and I was kind of worried about the humidity. But it's not, it's in the 90s, and it's really not that bad.
Yeah, sometimes you do a sweat when you walk like from your car to where you're going, but you're ready to go.
The worst I ever had for that was I was in Mississippi one time when I was in high school, and we did like a tour. And I remember stepping off of the bus, and it just hit you like a wall. And you're just like, oh, and you're trying to breathe. And it was just so invasive, I think maybe is the best word for it.
Yeah, well, we have a river here, so we like to, cool off in the water a little bit.
Yeah, and I have to say too, the entire Chattanooga area, absolutely gorgeous here. So if you have a chance to visit, definitely visit Chattanooga for sure. So with that, you and I met, you invited me to a conference in Denver, and again, thank you for inviting me to that. That was a really, really great conference.
Yeah, it was fun. We were talking before this, and our team, we said we really lucked out. We had you and Dustin speak and had a great crowd and very energizing Denver Food Safety Night.
Definitely, and that's what we try and do in food safety, is it's all about sharing the information, it's about this new generation that's coming up. Imagine you're, a kid in your 20s, and you've been promoted to quality manager in a food plant, and you're just trying to figure out what's the right thing to do and hope to God that you don't have a recall and all these type of things that we worry about every single day. And sharing that information is absolutely vital. So I think your company does a great job with that, and thanks again for sponsoring that.
Yeah, I think food safety is unique, where it's not like maybe med school or law school where people go to the same areas to get credentials and then they have a network of peers that they can swap stories with. So we try to create that, and like you do with the food safety chat.
Yeah, exactly. So like myself, I went to college, technical degree, microbiology. I was going to go to med school, change my mind. And you just kind of fall into this field. There's no really straight career path for this objective. So people a lot of times feel on their own. So hopefully we can help them in that regard. So with that, I wanted to definitely sit down here today with you and talk a little bit about Allera Technologies. You and I kind of chat on the phone every now and then, and you are up to some really cool stuff. So with your company, tell everybody a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so Allera is all-in-one food safety quality platform. We help companies go digital, trend data, supplier management, document control. Really our goal is to just be like all-in-one for food safety and quality teams.
Nice, and it's I think definitely, and this is something that we're seeing in the food industry, we're way behind the times.
Yeah.
The file folders full of paperwork are everywhere.
Yeah.
And with enhanced traceability, 204, all these new regulations that are coming out, that doesn't work, because if FDA calls you up, you have to get that information back to them in 24, 48 hours in most cases.
Yeah.
And most companies not equipped to do that. And they think that one forward, one back is good enough, and it's not. And I'm really glad that PCQI is coming out with some courses on enhanced traceability, the extra requirements. And just kind of a heads up for people listening to this as well, is that you may be thinking to yourself, oh, well, I'm not in a category of food that FDA considers high risk as part of enhanced traceability. Oh, I'm not produce, I'm not soft ripened cheeses, I'm cool. Nope, you're not. Because what's going on out there in the industry, I'm sure you track this really closely too, is the retailers are saying, I'm not having two systems of traceability in my systems. I expect everybody to be following the same system. So even though you're not part of that high-risk food group, you're still going to have to comply with all these programs. So FDA pushed back the clock, but you've still got to be ready to do that. So don't think you've got time, and do not procrastinate. So here with your company, with Allera then, so of course, as I said, we're in Chattanooga, but you have clients all over the place, right?
Yeah, so we work with companies all over, multinational. We have an office in Chicago as well, so we're definitely in the middle of America, but we work from anywhere in the country.
Nice, nice. And are there any particular, within the food space, Are there any clients or particular industries that you work mainly with?
Yeah, not really. We're pretty agnostic as far as not like only produce or only meat. Mostly I'd say SQF, BRC companies. We find those are the ones that are most burdened by documentation and traceability requirements and getting audited, and customers require it. So those are companies that we mostly work with, but we work with, like I said, like big public companies all over to a small mom and pop shop with no, SQF or BRC.
Nice. Well, and that's important, because when you're looking for software, so as someone who's been on the buying side in my past for large companies, is that scalability is really important, because, okay, fine, I was a big company, but a lot of my suppliers were not.
Yeah.
And if I was expecting them to comply with my systems, that could be a real burden on them, especially if it was expensive or was a massive change to their systems. So anytime that you can avoid that, super important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with the whole supplier side, and again, right back to the regulations, is under FSMA, of course, right? You have your prerequisite programs and your preventive controls. And people kind of gloss over this, but supplier control is a preventive control. We rely on that documentation from those suppliers. And if you're just checking the COA and you're not managing that stuff, that's not going to work for SQF or anybody else under GFSI or FDA.
Yeah.
They're going to really frown on that.
And scorecarding too. I think that's becoming a big issue.
Oh, absolutely. That was one of the great programs I put in place at my company. So this is kind of a little tip when I was at WhiteWave, is we had hundreds of suppliers. And so what we would do then for that supplier review process for scorecarding is we would focus on the ones that were critically important to the business. So this is a key ingredient that we buy. We can't buy it from anybody else. It's proprietary. This particular DHA we can only get from these guys. So we would always work closely with those ones. Large commodities that would have a significant impact on the business if we had a failure.
Yeah.
And then we would kind of go down from there, high risk, right? So if we had high risk ingredients from a food safety standpoint, those were always part of that supplier program. And then once a quarter, we would bring those high risk suppliers in on a rotating schedule and do exactly what you just said, is go through that scorecard with them. And we partners really closely with our procurement group. So we had a quality score for that supplier and we had a procurement score, because they're completely different. I was worried about third-party audits and recalls and compliance to GFSI, those things that you're talking about.
Yep.
Procurement was worried about orders on time, pricing, alignment, billable timing, open invoices, complaints, etc. And so by marrying those two up, we were able to have a united front with those suppliers to tell them whether we thought they were doing a good job or not.
Yeah. How did your suppliers respond to that?
Oh, it was great. They loved it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the supplier that was going into the headquarters was the sales guy.
Yeah.
It wasn't the people who were actually dealing with the plants and taking the orders and dealing with the complaints. So in most cases, Patty, they were surprised by what we told them. And we're like, hey, listen, you kind of suck. And they're like, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, your orders are arriving damaged at our plant. We have to keep calling to get the COAs because they're not coming with the loads. We can't find them in the system. It doesn't work. You guys are really screwing this up. And guess what? If you don't turn this around in the next 3 months or so, we're going to find somebody else who can.
Yeah.
And it worked really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of times too, with these type of conversations, it's kind of nice to understand, and this is really important in what we do, is the people that we deal with is just as important as the products that we have. So tell people a little bit more about you and who you are and how you got into this crazy field.
Yeah, so I guess I got into food safety in a roundabout way like everyone else. Mm-hmm. I have a severe food allergy, and so that kind of just clued me into the food safety space. I'd been in the hospital a few times and just realized that food safety affects all of us. And originally I was working with visiting companies and learning about allergens. I just wanted to work with allergens because that was what affected me, and then toured tons of facilities, large global companies down to small to medium ones, and realized that a lot of food safety quality teams were like, hey, allergens are important, they're top of mind, but really I'm spending most of my time on paperwork documentation, and there weren't really any modern tools. So that's what kind of got me into the space. But I think it's kind of been a long time coming. I think I've always been pretty entrepreneurial, like ran businesses growing up. I used to my favorite one was I used to buy and sell antique books.
Oh my God, that's cool.
Yeah, so that was like my high school business, and then have worked at like other tech companies, but then also did service work for a while. So I did like AmeriCorps. That was like a 1-year service term in rural Missouri, and then I was in El Salvador for 3 months. So I kind of had these two passions of like innovation, service, and I think my food allergy kind of bridged them of like, hey, how do we innovate in a space that's maybe otherwise overlooked?
Nice. Well, and that's an important point I want to emphasize too, is that Food safety is personal.
Yeah.
It's like Dr. Detweiler, right? He lost his child. His child died because of E. coli in a hamburger. And it's something that impacts all of us. Dr. Marshall with Eurofins, same with his family. His family has severe allergenic reactions in his family, which, as he points out, it's just not that person. It's the entire family, because now you have to shop for that person and control for the environment in that location. If you have a peanut allergy or something like that, you have to make sure your home doesn't have any of those elements in there that can make them sick.
Yeah.
Because to your point, if you have those really severe allergic reactions, just basic exposure can be life-threatening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I always say it's like being Superman scared of kryptonite.
Yeah.
Where you are always like, what's going to be in there? Is there allergens or not?
Yeah, at least you have an EpiPen.
Yeah.
He didn't have much to go on after that. So as you're kind of looking out, and this is why it's always nice to talk with the CEO of the company, is part of your job in these roles is to really be looking out and saying, 3 to 5 years out, what's my vision for this company? What do I see long term? How do you see Allera evolving over time over the next 5 years? Yeah,
I would say, well, our big goal is, like, our North Star is to make food safe for everyone. Obviously, we're not doing like the on the floor work that operators or managers are doing, but our goal is to enable these teams to move from spending all their time in paperwork, scanning documents, doing documentation, to doing more proactive work, like training teams, walking the floor, or just getting home on time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our goal, is making food safe, but then I think how we see ourselves doing that is building a tool that is easy to use, uses more proactive data, and then uses cutting edge tools just to basically get people spending as little time as possible on the checking the box stuff and as much time on the stuff that really moves the needle on food safety and quality.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, because it's one of the things that's a constant source of irritation in the food industry is that, so with the GFSI standards, the auditors are required to spend at least half of their time on the floor, but it doesn't happen because they're in the conference room trying to write up their notes from the visit, and they don't have enough time, so they've got to compress everything into a very short period of time, 2 or 3 days, depending on the size of the plant. And there's hundreds of questions to get through.
Yeah.
So if half of that time is on the floor, then how do you write things up? So they end up writing stuff afterwards. And now they got to remember, okay, where did I see that, and what plant was that in? Because they're doing multiple audits.
Yeah.
And so I love your point around that, is that the quality people need time to be freed up to look at stuff. I had a really good quality manager in my past at one of my plants at White Wave, and he knew more about that plant than anybody. Conversely, if there was a problem, he was the guy everybody turned to fix it.
Yeah.
So the maintenance guys would be watching him fix something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not right.
Yeah.
And I told him one time, I'm like, Moss, I want to come into this plant and find you sitting at your desk thinking about stuff. I want your feet up. I want your arms behind your head thinking, because that's how the plant gets better.
Yeah.
Doing the day-to-day stuff is fine, and it needs to be done, but that's not what moves things forward. Quality managers need time to say, I read that recent article on Bacillus cereus. I wonder if that impacts our product.
Yeah.
I'm kind of seeing that trend on complaints starting to go a little weird. Maybe I should start looking into that. That's how problems get reduced, and that's why that point that you're making in there of time needs to be made available is hypercritical.
Yeah.
And getting rid of that notion that if I'm not constantly doing something, that means I'm not working. No, that's incorrect.
Yeah, I think it can feel more rewarding, or be perceived as more rewarding if you're fixing equipment or doing something reactive. But if there's no problems or crises are averted, you're probably doing more work up front.
Right, and that's a very good parallel with your product, is that if things are going the way that they should, nobody notices because it's working fairly smoothly and things are moving along, and then that becomes the status quo.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Yeah, that's what we're working for here, absolutely. So around document control, and this is the bane, I think, of every quality manager's existence, because in the plant, most people are not trained in document control. They don't even know how to create documents. Word, I don't know how to use Word.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to get a grizzled 35-year veteran of the maintenance department who's been working in that plant since he got out of high school to use Microsoft Word to create a nice formatted document.
Yeah.
Ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
Ain't gonna happen. So what does happen is they end up going to the quality manager and saying, here, can you write this for me? I wrote down some notes.
Yeah.
And that becomes a gigantic burden, right? Back to this theme that's developing with our talk here this morning, is extra work for the quality manager. It's like, okay, fine, I need to put this together. And it ends up being, oh, documents need to be created. That's the quality manager's job.
Yeah.
No, it's not. What's kind of your take on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think most plant managers or presidents or whatever it is might see it as like just checking a box. I think the best companies I see, they see it as an opportunity to like run more effectively as a business, because it does affect the bottom line. But I think it's like, I was thinking about it recently and realized that like, I think the good companies we see, they do three things. They like write really good SOPs. So it's like writing good SOPs, internal documentation, distributing it. We always hear stories of like an auditor's out there and then somebody has a document from like 2 or 3 years ago in their locker or in their back pocket. So actually like making sure everyone has access to the up-to-date spec or training, and then refining it. So like when a change is made or when an auditor comes in and there's findings or new things come out, like actually making the change. I think it is like the last thing you want to do at the end of the day. It's a long day, things have broken, and then you're like, okay, now I have to update this SOP, I have to get people to sign it, I have to get people to review it. I think that's when people want to pull their hair out. But
oh yeah, absolutely.
That's what I see people that do it well.
Yeah, and if you're an auditor who's looking to find nonconformances in a plant, that's a super easy way to do it.
Yeah.
It's, all I have to do is find a couple of documents that haven't been updated and they're obsoleted, and yeah, I'll just write them up for that.
Yeah.
That, and oh, your pest control documentation is missing the latest certificate. It's like, okay, fine. Does that really help food safety? No,
Yeah.
It doesn't. But really, there's a larger legal and regulatory element that I think people forget. Because when there is a major recall, so class 1, people have died and things like this, the first things that the lawyers for the plaintiff, right, they're suing the company, first thing they do is they subpoena your documentation.
Yeah.
They go after your documents and they go after your emails. And when Bluebell had their big recall for the ice cream with Listeria, that was the first thing they did. And that's where the information really is. And
Yeah.
so if that defense lawyer, or not the defense, but the prosecution, right, the plaintiff, in that particular example, can show that you have shoddy systems and you really can't follow the documentation and information is contradictory, that's an easy picture to paint of, Your Honor, this company's out of control.
Yeah.
They can't even explain to the workers on the floor what they're supposed to do in a consistent manner. Do you really think they have the ability to prevent people from getting sick?
Yeah. Versus on the flip side, if it's like remarkable document control, it's very clean, and then it's like, oh, this is what they're supposed to be doing. This is when the employee was trained on that data, like it was only 3 weeks ago and then this incident happened. You're like, okay, this was out of their control, or
Yeah.
incident employee basis.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point earlier, this needs to be easy to do, because on the plant floor, documentation is changing weekly or sometimes even daily. Documentation is changing. It's, oh, we need to update this procedure because we changed this, that, and the other thing. The rule of thumb I've always found in production facilities is, if you start at the top in the plant, you talk with the plant manager and you ask her some questions. You'd say, oh, all right, well, what's the temperature on this piece of equipment at this point in the process? She'll say, oh, it's 75 degrees. It's like, oh, okay. And then you ask the next level down. It's like, it's 73 degrees. Oh, really? What changed? Oh, well, we had some capital improvements a month ago and we changed that to 73. So no, it's no longer 75. Oh, okay, great. And then you talk with the supervisor, and the supervisor says 72. Like, really, what happened? oh, we updated some of the cooling systems, so we're getting more cooling now, which is awesome, so the product's better. Okay, cool. You get it, right? So then you ask the operator from that shift that day, it's like, oh no, I was able to tweak this and we're running even colder now, we're at 71. So that's where you get the information from.
Yeah.
And keeping that up to date is a huge challenge. And so back to that point of the easier you can make that process of, oh, that's been updated, change the form, here you go, all the obsolete copies are out of the system, you're going to an automated electronic system or something where you can easily access that information. And the shift supervisor says on the second shift, hey guys, change 71 degrees on the filler now instead of 72, make sure you've got your temperature set correctly.
Yeah.
That's what you need. And as soon as you can figure out that mechanism, that's a savior for the plant. Versus the quality manager running around trying to grab all the old copies and go through folders to find the old ones and say, everybody remember that we got to do this. You're going to lose.
Yeah, and just like, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Like, I think I talked to a company, huge food company, they had like 40 plus facilities, and they were saying, I think they said they spend like 20,000 hours a year on SOP revisions, because they have corporate, they have global, they have local, state regulations, and you're like, man, I feel like plant managers have a better way to use their time than spending 20,000 hours on documentation.
That's 10 full-time people.
Yeah, yeah.
Craziness. So really then, so what have you seen then so far? So that's kind of the plant side. So kind of the next level of the conversation is the regulatory side. So what have you seen from your perspective of developing these programs and products for your clients from a regulatory standpoint? So when FDA or USDA or state agencies trot into the plant, what type of feedback are you getting on that?
Yeah, we aren't as involved with the third parties. Usually it's our customers managing that relationship with the auditor.
Right.
We can give access if they want it. Most don't want to give access unless it's in a limited capacity. But I think we found, like, we had a customer, they're SQF, they're a farm, and she was saying that they used to be on a big table like this, they'd get their binders out and it took like 3 hours for documentation, and then they got their auditor out in like 30 minutes. And we think that's just like best use of time. You know, auditors, when they're there 3 hours, they feel like they gotta have some findings to show. So we find it's just easier to access the data, show it, and then even with customers, sometimes it's like, oh, look, we have this fancy, modern, robust system. So that's the experience we've had. But we try to just enable them to get the auditors in and out as quickly as possible.
Nice. And pro tip for everybody listening to this, never give your auditor access to binders of documents, because what they'll do is they'll just sit there and flip through it and say, oh, show me this. Oh, show me this. Oh, this doesn't look right. Go find me this, right? You're just asking for trouble. The rule is, right, so the auditor asks a question, give him the direct answer to the question specifically that was asked, and this applies for regulatory, it doesn't matter. Answer the question, smile, take away the information, and move on. Okay? Your job there is to supply them. And a lot of times too, Paddy, auditors, especially with FDA, are trained to get you uncomfortable. They want you to start volunteering information.
Yeah.
So the auditor, they'll just sit there and stare at you. And you're like, well, and we also do, right? They're looking for you psychologically, and they're trained to do that. So you have to be aware of those techniques.
Less is more.
Absolutely. So one of the cool things too that you're doing is your show, which is 30 Food Safety. Tell people a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we just the goal is just to interview like the brightest minds in food safety. We talked about it, and you do a lot of it, more than anybody else, as far as just like making it accessible to learn for like your average person. I think having, being from a small town in the Midwest, I know that it's like there's siloed information and it's hard to learn from the best. And there wasn't much content in the space as far as like, hey, what does the VP at Wendy's think as far as quality? But I think really what I've learned from it is interviewing these people just is like how important storytelling is in food safety. I mean, you're human, it's important to everything, but like hearing from people of like, oh, this is how I got into food safety, or I told this story to a team and then it really resonated, and then other people can use that, or like, honestly, I always push people to share their mistakes, because I think that's what is most valuable for people listening, to be like, oh, they made that mistake, I've done that before, or I've experienced something similar.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an important point. I want to reemphasize that for everybody too, is documents don't tell the story, you do. So when an auditor says, well, show me how you do management review, it's not, here's our procedure, read the procedure, and here's our form from, no. It's like, no, management review is one of the best things that we do in this plant. We love doing management reviews. This is our one opportunity to sit down with the plant manager and tell that person exactly what we're doing, what we're improving, what we're worried about, what our key performance indicators look like. It's how we manage corrective actions and continuous improvement in this plant. And I'm really happy to show you how we manage that.
Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. It's just a different posture.
Okay. And I think that's part of, it's an issue in technical fields, like with what we do, is we think the data speaks for itself. It doesn't. You need to be able to explain, communicate, and persuade in those aspects. And it's something that, I talk about on the check.
And talk their language.
Absolutely, right? They're looking for that interaction. One of the things in plants that's always very common, I'm sure you'll see this when you go to plants multiple times, the same person gives the tour.
Yeah.
Why is that? It's because that person gives kick-ass tours. If it's the quality manager giving the tour, it's going to be very technical. This is our receiving bay. This is where we bring in the materials. This is where the chart recorder is. Here's the information from the laboratory. We write down the data here, and this is stored over here. No. So in a past company I had, we had a cheesemaker from Switzerland, Roloff. Roloff was an amazing plant tour guy. And he had this really cool accent, and he always got the tours, and he would complain, but he was the best, right? It didn't matter. So if customers were coming in, we would, all right, forget what you're doing here today. Your job is to do the tour.
Yeah.
And it was exactly what we were talking about with the documentation. He'd be like, hi, I'm Roloff. Thank you for coming to our plant. We're really, really happy to show you our plant. Now you're going to notice I'm going to give you the tour in reverse. This is a dairy plant. We're going to start with the finished product, and we're going to work our way back through the process to raw milk. Why? Because raw milk is from the farms. It's out on the farms with the mud and all the stuff that's on a farm. We don't want that all going into the plant as you're touring.
Yeah.
So that's why we do that. And we're very happy to show you what we've done here today. I've been at this plant for 30 years and I love it.
Wow.
Right? That's what you want, right? You're showing people your story and you need to be proud of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Super, super important. So as you've been dealing with these different industries as well, Paddy, so one of the things I rail against in the food industry from a food safety standpoint is we're very siloed.
Yep.
So we've got produce and meat and dairy and we don't talk to each other and things like this. Do some companies that you work with in some industries adapt faster versus others? And why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it is really a team-by-team basis. I don't think it's like, oh, dairy's better than meat or anything like that, or small companies and big companies. I do think it's team-by-team where I think the cross-functional nature, like companies that, managers that have good relationships before they start doing some implementation goes a long way. And you can just see, like, I think for some people they might look and be like, oh wow, this person, it's just like magic. Like they ask for something and they get it. And it's normally not. It's normally behind the scenes. There's been a lot of work that's been done, collaboration, there's trust that's been built. And so that's what we see. I think it's team by team, and then also I think just wider team buy-in where we worked with the VP, it was his decision, he owned the budget, they're a multinational team, like, across multiple countries, and he was like, no, we have to, everyone's got to get eyes on this. So then, we'd visit the plant, we met with the operators who would actually test it out, and so then by the time it was ready to go, it's like he had the whole quality team behind him,
nice.
Other operators in production behind him. And so I think that makes a big difference is getting buy-in, not just upward, but downward as well.
Yeah, and really that's just a really good story illustrating what we're trying to work with is food safety culture.
Yeah.
Right, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not directives from on high, where we're saying to this new program and you're going to do it and we expect implementation in 6 months and we're going to come audit you to make sure you're compliant. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people are seeing that changing too, hopefully. But I think food safety culture is a big buzzword now.
Yeah, people have been struggling with what it means. And so really, I think, what I've been doing in the space now with risk is what we're talking about, right? It's unique to every company. It's exactly your point. Risk assessment in a company is unique to every company.
Yeah.
Who's running the company, who's the CEO, what type of products do you make, who do you sell it to, how long have you been in business, who owns you?
Yeah.
If you're owned by a capital, and they come in and they expect a certain ROI in a period of time,
yep.
That's what the board of directors is looking at. And consequently, that's what's going to cascade through the company.
Yeah.
What are the ramifications for that? How does that impact the guys on the floor? They think it doesn't, but it absolutely does.
Yeah.
And so companies need to get that perspective and figure out, just like any type of a management software system or anything that you're looking at, what are those gaps that we're looking at? I'm sure you've seen this in implementation with your programs, is it's only as good as the setup.
Yeah.
If you have crappy documents to begin with, well, guess what?
Yeah. It's going to be a long setup.
Yeah, you're not going to have a very good system.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, let's start rewriting some of this stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Sometimes it's, we joke that it's like food safety quality couples therapy, where it's like, production wants this, the operator wants this, but then some companies they know what they want, they're very in touch with their documents are living, so it's much smoother that way.
Definitely. Very cool. So I want to kind of alluding to what I was talking about earlier as well. So as a CEO, right, you're kind of looking at the landscape and seeing what's going on. What's in the future for Allera, and what are you guys working on?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like we are not one of the older legacy players in the space. We're more modern. We've been around a few years, but I think it's more just like it's been catching up. But I think next few years and really end of this year I think we're doing some exciting things around like how we're using AI to actually add value. So one of those ways is like with our document control. It's like you can tie your SOPs to SQF, BRC, do horizon scanning, do tagging, but then also just when you do make changes or if things are out of spec, letting you know. And then I think like with our supplier onboarding, nobody likes using a portal if you're a supplier. So we're working on tools where you can just email a response, we'll automatically file it so that, or just click a link, like however suppliers want to get their documentation to customers, they can. And then lastly is just like trending data is really, with AI, it's going to be better at trending data than really anybody is broadly. And so actually just applying that to your specific data and helping you unlock things that you might have to scratch your head or do all these VLOOKUPs in Excel to get. Those are the things top of mind for us. But I think we're really focused on just like serving great companies and trying to do what we do is make food safe.
Yeah, nice. That's a good point. So as we kind of close out our talk here today, any closing thoughts? Anything around that? And then, of course, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, thanks for having me. Yeah. This was great. I love that you're here in Tennessee, and hopefully all of our people get to learn about food safety from this and other chats as well. If people want to get a hold of us, you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn or via email or through our website. I think really for us, our focus, we'd love being, one, easy to use, implement, but two, I think in the food industry, it's like these are 100-year relationships between companies. And so that's kind of the perspective we take is like these are 10, 20 longer year relationships of we like to visit on site, we bring donuts, and actually be friends with the people we work with. So.
Yeah, I think last time we spoke on the phone, you were off at a client.
Yeah, I think I've been in like over 100 facilities in the last 2 years. So.
And that's smart. That's where you learn.
Yeah.
And so that's really, really good.
Absolutely.
Corporate is not where the action happens in production. It's the plants.
Yeah, you got to get the hairnet on, and was in an egg facility recently, had the hazmat suit. So that's what I love to do.
Very cool. Very cool. Good. And so for your name, then, so if people aren't familiar with you, I have a unique name. You have a unique name. So how do you spell your name?
Paddy McNamara. Yep.
So MC or MAC?
McNamara.
Gotcha. And AlleraTechnologies.com?
Yep, and AlleraTech.com.
And then for the 30 Food Safety, is that linked up on your site then?
Yep, if you go to our site, you'll find it there and see some of our episodes.
Okay, cool. And you think I forgot? I did not. The dad joke. Are you ready for the dad joke?
Let's hear it.
All right. Patty, and this is topical. Why did the software engineer go broke?
I don't know.
Sad case, he ran out of cash.
Wow, that is very on brand. I can't believe you found a software dad joke.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Very niche. That might be the only one.
And that's C-A-C-H-E, not cash, computer cash. So with that, we'll close out this special edition of the Food Safety Chat Live. Thanks, Patty. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
And thank you to my technical planner, my wife, who set this all up. Did a great job over there. Thank you very much. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. And of course, we'll see you back on the Food Safety Chat Live as we normally do on Fridays at 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Eastern, where we live stream on YouTube and LinkedIn and bring you amazing experts in the food safety field. So we'll see you then for the next chat, and we'll talk soon. Bye, everybody.